What's the world's greatest lie? The boy asked, completely surprised. It's this, that a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. What's up, everybody? I hope everybody's fantastic and having a great time doing whatever they're doing and deciding to do. That little piece, those few seconds, was from a book titled The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a book that has been recommended to me time and time again. And really, I won't say I did avoid it because it's fiction. It's a novel. And I believe all the books except for The Power of Myth and The Go-Giver have been non-fiction. Extreme Ownership. I think I brought up I at least talked about The 4-Hour Body. I started with Start With Why, Wild at Heart, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, The World According to Mr. Rogers. Those are just some of the books that I've touched on throughout this podcast, throughout the first 80 weeks. And so, out of 100, I made it to 80. And interesting enough is that, I'm very big on the 80-20 principle. Principle. So, on episode 80, I was actually already in Louisiana. I was getting ready for a family vacation. And we happened to be in Louisiana on that Thursday. So I was like, okay, I'll post this. I'll do this. And then as the next Thursday was approaching, because I got back from vacation on Tuesday, I believe. On that Tuesday, it was like August. Maybe it was the beginning of August or the end of July. July 31st was a Tuesday, I believe, because I think August 1st was a Wednesday. Either way, as I was arriving to that date, I had just decided in that week that, you know what, let me take a break from podcasting. Let me take a break from this project that I started 80 weeks ago, and it would have been episode 81 that following week. And one of the primary reasons was because I felt like I was slacking on content. Yes, I was posting things that I felt were necessary and relevant, but I was definitely talking less and less. And one of the themes that I figured out was I needed to start listening, and so that's where I've kind of taken the podcast for at least in taking the month off. Besides me feeling like I was slacking on the content, I realized it was because I needed to work on my listening skills. And that's why I had been posting excerpts from other people's podcasts, whether it was Jordan Peterson, whether it was Jocko from Jocko Podcast. And so that was that. I decided to take a month off. And then one of the questions that I brought up to myself as I decided to take the month off from podcasting was, you know what? If I feel the urge to, or if I feel it necessary to want to continue the podcast anytime in August, then I'll figure it out then. Or I'll at least decide, okay, I'll let the month of August let me decide if I should continue the podcast or let it be a project that, I tried it. I did 80 weeks in a row out of my goal of 100. And I can let it go in peace because, it's not the route that I want to take or I feel necessary to take. Okay. The month of August came, played some gigs, did some more reading, and along with that reading, I've been studying for a test that I'm looking to take really anytime now. I thought I would have taken it by now. My goal to start the podcast up was this Thursday, which is a Thursday after Labor Day. It is September 6th. So I was like, you know what, Labor Day, I'll start it up again. Because at some point in August, I had realized, you know what, good. I do want to do this. There was a few conversations that I've had that I was like, man, this is for one, they're podcast worthy, but for two, it's like, okay, the conversation that I try to bring to the podcast, I feel is still necessary. So I'm like, okay, that's my decision. My next step was, okay, when do I want to start it? So I made another decision. I said, okay, I'm going to start this. after Labor Day, because by then I should be just about done with studying, and I'll have, like I said, I thought I'd have taken this test by now, but I haven't. I'm still waiting on that test date. I don't want to talk about what it's for yet, because it's a big deal. It's a big change. But one thing I heard in the month of August, because I would always wonder why, like, whenever I would say something, whether it's on the podcast and I wouldn't stick to it, or even in conversation, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do that for you, or I'll do that one thing. And I kept thinking about it, and eventually that hype just ran out all the energy from whatever that subject, whatever that issue, whatever that thing I wanted to tackle next. It just wore it out. So with this particular thing, it's like, okay, you know what? Let me for one, be more patient. For two, I haven't told everybody, or I mean, I guess I haven't told the world, which you'd find out soon enough. But I mean, for my friends that tune in, for the most part, I mean, at least that I can think of, you all know what's going on. You guys have been kept updated. But as far as talking about it to the internet, to the world, it's like, okay, this is a big deal. It's a big change, and I'm waiting to succeed before I, say something, and then I don't succeed. And it's like, well, to me, it was like, what was the point of that? It's like, this is something that is important to me. It's something I stand by. And even one time, because I mean, some of my family knows, and I haven't even told all my family, but in that, an uncle brought it up to me. He's like, oh, you're gonna do this and that. I'm like, yeah. And I kept it really short, and I felt like a jerk because he would ask me just genuine questions, and he was genuinely curious. But it's like, I kept it short because in my head I'm like, I don't want to talk about it because nothing's happened yet. We could get to a point where I then tell you what happened because I didn't get in, or I didn't do this. I didn't, not necessarily succeed, but it just, the event didn't happen the way I was hoping it would. So because of that, I have stayed relatively quiet about it. And so along with the studying, I did get back on Netflix for the month, because I knew that if I just stay up all night and day studying this material, then I would burn out, and then I wouldn't want to study ever again. So I got back on Netflix. I found, I caught up on like The Ranch. Like The Ranch is a good show. I caught up on that one. I finished The Office, which is a really good little comedy sitcom deal. If you like those type of shows, at the beginning I didn't think I'd like it, and I know I had a short conversation with Gonzo, because he had said he didn't think he'd like it, and I was like, you know what, I know that 6 months ago I probably wouldn't have liked it, but now, a little over 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't have liked it, but I gave it a chance, and it's actually not that bad. So I did that along with my studying, and then I got to this show the last week of August, titled 13 Reasons Why. And if you know the premise, then you know what the show's about generally. And I don't want to, there's a lot of room to ruin it, and I'd rather not. It's definitely aimed towards young adults, and I'd say 15 and older. I feel like every adult should be, I feel very strongly that it should be mandatory for every adult to watch it. And there's a ton of points on there. There's from listening to telling the truth to interaction with people, bullying. There's a ton of topics that I could bring up, but one of the premises, because it was just so prominent through the whole show, was truth. And so that's where I think I want to take this podcast for now, is uncovering truth, because one of the themes along with truth, one of the, I guess, the subtopics would be, oh, that's her truth, but that's not my truth. So we know she was lying. We know that person was lying. We know that other person was lying, but we know that's not true. And that's interesting, because then that brings up points of view. That brings up interaction with people and how we all interact with each other. And where we'll talk maybe a certain way, or we'll be comfortable with talking about certain topics with certain people, and then like with others we won't, because either we're not close enough to them where we feel maybe comfortable, or we feel maybe it's not relevant. Maybe it never comes up. Maybe no deep conversations come up. And usually for me, if you've talked to me in person, then that's pretty irrelevant lately as far as deep conversations. On Tuesday night, we had a little celebration for a friend who's moving on to bigger and better things, and I took it. I took as and once they kind of calmed down. I guess the part, we'll call it the party. I I just took it there, and we talked about everything, and through the conversation, the podcast came up, and how everything's connected to everything. I While there's some binary answers like 2 + 2 = 4, that's pretty binary in a mathematical sense. There's a lot of things, especially when dealing with truth and dealing with, okay, how are you listening to a person? How are you speaking to a person? And so anyway, so it's all how all these things are connected. And there was another very short conversation that I was a part of on Facebook, dealing with questions and question asking and how a certain industry reacts a certain way. And from my point of view, the gentleman that asked these questions, he wanted some pretty extensive answers. So I gave him what I thought he wanted. Turns out he wanted a binary answer. He wanted, is it A, B, or C, basically. And I said, okay. So he wanted that. And for me, it was hard to give an A, B, or C because I can tell you how A, B, and C affect each other all the way around. So with that's one real life example that I was in an interaction that I was in, where it's like, oh, truth. What's my truth? My truth is there's many answers for this particular topic, where for him at this certain case was binary. Okay. So what I am planning to do is bring on hopefully new guests. There's definitely a couple of new people that I've met, and even one his name's Michael. He is a client at 9 Round McAllen, which is where I would help train. He's always been a cool guy, and Tuesday night we got to have a great conversation. I'm like, hey dude, let me get your number, because we need to have this conversation and really dive into this stuff that, we're very much on the same page with a lot of these topics. So, Michael and a few other new people, and then bring on everybody else that has been on this podcast, because now that I've centered on this, it's like, okay, let's dive in. Let's see what truth is to you. Let's see what truth is to me. Let's see what truth is to these people that I've known. And you, the listener, have heard on this podcast episodes. One of my premises. Either way, one of the premises. Man, I have to figure that out. One of the main points of truth for me is definitely starting with yourself, and it's hard for me to even think about that deeply, because it feels so selfish. But definitely one of the points that I will bring up, and probably over and over again throughout this month. I don't know how long this conversation will go as far as the conversation about truth, but it's like, you have to be truthful to yourself. Like for me, like I brought up for several, maybe not several episodes, but a long ways back when I was doing, my blood tests very frequently, and I haven't done one in a while, but I've been staying on, low carb. But my point is like sugar being an issue, and I brought it up at least multiple times, where it's like, sugar is an issue, and I feel like I've been managing it, but it's not gone. But it's been manageable as of late. And so something like that is being true to myself, where I was like, man, I even wrote it in, and I started a journal just for food and stuff that I eat. And it's like trying to find ways to make myself see it in a different way. And in this case, it'd be writing it down. And, but the point is being truthful to yourself. That's one of my points. So then I'm now very curious to hear other people's stories. And hopefully as this evolves, I will find maybe a pattern. One of the things that I have seen people do this past month of August, as I took this break from the podcast, was people making decisions. Like my friend who just left 9 Round to concentrate on school and other things she wants to take on. It's like, good, you made a decision and you're sticking to it. And now, hopefully, the hope for now the near future is that your grades stay good. You take care of yourself. You stick to your decision and make new plans or maybe plans that you've had in mind, you can do that now. That's definitely one of the main things is that I've seen this past month is making decisions and then progressing. I have another friend, and they have been doing really well, developing a lot of discipline as far as like their own diet, adding running, even though they don't want to run, but they still go and run, which is great because that's just great for your mind when you have those little wins. Because at the end of actually we had a conversation today or Wednesday, and one of the things they said was, I feel like this year is flying by, and I feel like I haven't done anything. I'm like, whoa, hold on. You have done a lot. You've lost X amount of weight, and you even added running, and you even go running when you don't want to. That's a good thing, because a lot of people won't do that. They won't just get the work done, even if it's a little bit. So it's like, don't be so hard on yourself. And what that took me to was myself. It's like, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. But also, if I'm giving that quote unquote advice, then I should take it myself. So one thing I have been working on is, okay, if I feel a negative thought, what have I been telling myself? What would I tell a friend, and then telling myself that, it's like, okay, make that decision and progress. And that's been a developing part of my truth. Another piece of my truth lately has been listen intently and wait an extra second before answering. I feel at the moment we're all really quick to answer. And for some people, I feel like it's because they do have more experience than maybe me whenever answering. But okay, so if I think I have an answer, it's like, okay, let me at least let them finish their sentence before I answer. And also, like, frankly, sometimes people don't want answers. They just want to vent, or they just want to be heard. So I'm like, you know what? Let me do that for the month of August. So those are just some things. I could probably go on like some tangents here, which I don't want to do. I'm definitely looking to keep this episode under 30 minutes. But anyways, truth is a topic. Next week I'll probably bring in like the dictionary definition. I've told you what some of my truths are, some of my points of views for now. And even in making my decisions, which will show, soon. Sooner than later. I feel like I thought by now I'd have a different timeline, but I did plan for the month of October to give me a more definite timeline. So really the month of September is getting this podcast going for the time being, at least as long as I'm able to. And then one of my last points that I'll bring up for today is there's this book that I got at Barnes & Noble. It's called 3,000 Questions About Me. And on the outside of this, it has a bunch of like questions. Like one of them is, what is the most important thing to carry with you at all times? And the cliche answer is confidence. It's like, well, I'm definitely not going to do that with this book. That's just not how I work. On the first page, so there's 15 questions per page, which means there's 200 pages. And one of the questions, question number 7, is, on what occasion do you lie? And I tied that in with truth and telling the truth, and us as kids, or maybe everybody as kids, being told, oh, tell the truth, don't lie. But yeah, we're not told how. And maybe next week I'll bring in that question and what my answer was for that question. But in doing these 3,000 questions, I hope we'll bring out some more truth about me. Well, then once we start dissecting some of these questions, and then new questions you can use to find your truth, and then all my friends, all the people who I've had on the podcast, we can talk about truth and see where that takes us. So that's enough for me today. I hope you have a great week, great weekend. You still have Thursday and Friday. Don't take those away from me. Don't take those away from yourself. There'll probably be a video that I'm sure I've talked about, and I've probably posted it before, but I'll post it again because it's very relevant. There's a lot of people like, oh, it's Monday. And then in that same category, it's like, oh, I cannot wait till Friday. But it's a negative thought. Now there's something that's, Friday's here. I'm looking forward to this. I feel like there's a balance. There's a dichotomy with that too. But when you're dreading the week and you're looking forward to only Friday, you've now wasted 4 days. And I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to, because then you get to Friday and then what? And then you're back at Monday and you're waiting for Friday again. You've now lost, and I'm not even saying you've wasted. I'm not even putting that on you, because that's another thing that I will definitely talk about is judging and not judging. Let me actually make a note about that. But my point is, don't take things away from yourself. That's the only part. That's the only part I'll harp on for today is don't take away days from yourself. Don't take away the time that you're given, because then the cliche comes up of like you don't know what you've lost until you've lost it, and in this case it might be time that you've lost, and you won't get back again. And that's something that I definitely truly believe in. So again, okay, I'm done. I'm done for today. Thank you for sticking around. I hope that this show, this podcast, this video is back for good. Definitely looking forward to evolution, some more evolution, some more moving with life, literally. And if you have any questions, all the email and information is on the show notes. If you don't, if you're like me, obviously, you'll go and read a book and figure it out, or you ask some questions and move forward with whatever you want to do, with whatever decisions you feel are important, some more important than others. We'll do that. So, until next week, thank you.